Hey guys, we're here with day 17. Where our goal is to hopefully give you some assistance on maybe some of the struggles you've had with some of these Google Forms on these supply and demand things. Um, so we're gonna go to the original document here from day 12. Okay, I have all the questions that you would get to, and we're gonna go all the way down to the bottom of these. We're gonna go through 1 through 8. Okay, which match up with day 15's stuff. Okay, so if you haven't done that yet, great. If you have, maybe kind of check your work. The big thing to notice about these, I think, that can help you out is that you can turn in the assignment 2 times. And so you go through, you see what's wrong, and then redo it. And so, anyway, let's try to get some clarity here and give you some tips on what you can use to hopefully um, check your work as you go forward. And if you get good at these graphs and looking at them, you can almost cheat yourself through the exam. That being said, if you haven't watched the notes from especially day 15, okay, you really need to go back and do those. Those are going to explain some things about the equilibrium point and how and why we shift these lines and what we can tell when we do that. Okay, so here's the first thing to as we give you a tip on what to do. Here's the first thing you've got to remember. Okay, first of all, there's only 4 possible ways we can shift these things. Okay, so we have an increase in demand. I'm going to remind you guys right now of ERDL. Okay, so increase right, decrease left. So here's my demand increase. If I'm going to increase my demand, I'm going to shift it to the right. Okay, if I decrease my demand, I'm going to shift it to the left. All right, and if I want to go down to the supply side of things, here's my increase in supply, and here's my decrease in supply. Okay, now these are showing us some different things here. Most notably, what we want to be able to tell is what happens to our equilibrium point. Okay, so hopefully this is review, but just as we talked about, our equilibrium price on an increase in supply goes down. We're going to produce more, right? Decrease in supply, our price goes up, our quantity goes down. And again, we're looking at what happens from this old point to the new point. That's what we're trying to do and how it reacts to their position on the axis. Increase in demand is an increase in price and an increase in quantity. Decrease in price, decrease in quantity for a decrease in demand. Okay? Now, using this information, hopefully we are able to get to the point where we can eliminate some of the potential answers. Okay? So, for this first problem here, it's asking us about inventing a new picking machine. Okay, so in this case, we're talking about apples. What's going to happen to the demand or supply for apples if this occurs? Okay, so a common mistake that people make is they're like, oh, we're going to eat a lot of apples because we think like demanders. Oh, there's going to be tons of apples. We're going to eat more apples. And so that's going to be what my initial answer is. Well, let's use our graphs here to try to check our work. Okay, so I'm going to label real quick. This is a demand increase. This is a demand decrease. Supply increase. Supply decrease. And again, you should already have these graphs in your notes anyway. They should look extremely similar. Okay, so we said, hey, listen, we're going to assume that we're going to increase our demand. Okay, so I'll put a star here just to look at it. So let's look at what happens with our price and quantity if we guess increase in demand. Okay, well, in this particular case, our price is going up. That should be a red flag. We just said we're going to eat so many apples because they're going to be cheaper, right? And we know that when there's so many of something, we've got to lower the price. And so what we need to be able to pull from this is like, okay, that doesn't make sense. Let's check some other things here. Okay, what makes the price go down that we are going to prove our thought? Okay, well, we've got a price going down here, and we've got a price going down here. Okay, So if we look at the price going down with the demand, well, that doesn't make sense. We said we're going to eat more apples. That doesn't make sense, right? So let's look at the supply increase. Okay, so supply increase kind of makes sense. Well, price goes down, our quantity goes up. That makes sense too. So maybe that's a good guess. Okay, so let's just kind of think about, keep that in the back of our minds right now while we go back and look at some other information. Remember, back when we took these notes about the law of demand and the law of supply, we wrote down some shifters. Okay, I have these shifters listed right here. All right, so I've got my demand shifters in green. That triangle represents like a change, so change in taste and preferences, change in price, okay? And I've also got my supply shifters. All right, now we have a situation where we have a new picking machine. Okay, new means technology. All right, look at our shifters up here. Which one is technology under? Technology is a supply shifter, okay? And when we have an increase in technology, that means we're going to increase our supply. So going back to your original problem here, okay, you should choose an increase in supply, okay? Hopefully that starts making some sense for you. Obviously, you can also get to your answer by saying, okay, technology is a supply shifter in the first place. And that's going to narrow things down to 50-50 also. Okay, let's go on to the next one here. And if you're getting the hang of it, by all means, fast forward a little bit till the end. All right, number 2, minimum wage. Let's see if we can match a shifter with that. Okay, minimum wage. See if you can match a shifter real quick. Hopefully you're identifying a change in income. Okay, more money means we buy more stuff. We should have an increase in demand for number 2. All right, because our income changed. As you're going through these, make sure you're reading them carefully. I'll start speeding up a little bit. Again, I would encourage you, if you are super stuck, you need to get a hold of me through email, okay, and make sure that you are doing what you need to do. Number 3, we're talking about spaghetti versus spaghetti sauce. Those are complementary goods. Another demand shifter. So spaghetti's cheaper. We're going to eat more spaghetti. We're going to increase our demand for spaghetti sauce. Number 4 is one people get stuck on, especially early on, and missing some of these isn't necessarily a bad thing. But number 4, we're talking about a price change in ski resort lift tickets. And it's asking us, what's this information going to do to our supply for lift tickets? The first thing I would encourage you to do is find your shifters again. Let's see if we can find a shifter that goes with this. Population, no. Income, no. Change in taste and preferences, no. Substitutes, complements, expectations, no. Inputs, producers, disaster, technology, expectations, and there's no government policy either. So I can't find one of those shifters. Okay. So what we know is happening in this particular case, right, is if a company raises the price, this is what's occurred in this particular case. If that company raises its price, it's going to be defined as no shift, but we know it's going to result in a surplus. Yes, we're going to demand less, okay, but we're not shifting our demand. We don't have those shifters that we've mentioned a couple different times, okay? We also don't have the supply shifters. Again, they're going to want to supply more, but they're not going to be able to because, again, they can't just raise the price and still convince people to buy that stuff. All right, let's finish up these last 4 quickly. Number 5, a sports figure signs an endorsement deal with a shoe company. Sometimes that one gets mixed up too. People like to say, oh, I'm going to supply more shoes. Again, looking at our graphs here, if we increase our supply, right, if we shift our supply, it's going to lower the price of stuff. That doesn't make sense. The hope is that I'm going to change people's tastes and preferences and increase the demand. Okay? So number 5 is increase in demand. Coffee beans go into espresso. Now that I tell you that, you know that it's an input of production. That should be an increase in supply. Test questions for points will be significantly more clear when there are inputs or complements or substitutes, whatever the case might be. You don't have to guess. Okay. Number 7 is an increase in supply. That is a new producer of clothing. And number 8, we've got a natural disaster that's going to decrease our supply for orange juice. Okay. Now, that being said, hopefully you can go back, and if you haven't gotten to it yet, okay, even retake this supply and demand assignment number 1. Okay. So again, I said I would grade your second guess. By all means, take a third guess on it. Maybe if I'm in a good mood, I will give you 95% credit or so on that particular assignment. Today, for day 17, you're working on the second supply and demand assignment. Same thing we've done. We are obviously moving forward. Some of them are a little bit more challenging. What you'll see is, rather than put no shift to confuse us, I say, hey, if the price gets lowered, it's shortage. If the price gets higher or raised, it's going to be a surplus. So you'll see you have another option of a guess in there as you go through. Okay. Here's another tip for you. Okay. Find a friend, find a classmate with the same class. If you get 2 guesses, right, you take the first guess. FaceTime with your friend. Say, hey, listen, let's talk about this together. You take the second guess, all right? And now you get the third guess too. You're still only submitting 2 assignments, right? Okay. So I'm only gonna check your second assignment. I don't know whether or not you worked with a friend or not. Okay. Hopefully you jump through the hoops and you practice this stuff and you don't just copy somebody, because it's going to pay off in the long run on a test situation. Okay. But you use that policy to your advantage. It's not so much to see how much you can do, it's to get you to practice and then try to fix your mistakes really quickly. Okay. And as we're going over this stuff. All righty. On day 18, I'm going to introduce a project. Okay. And in that project, you'll be creating a poster. It will be, I think it's something that you can have some fun with. You'll see what I mean on Friday. We're going to set up some time early next week for a Google Meet where you can check with me during my class time, because kids in class will be working on the same stuff. The exam for this stuff is going to be on next Thursday. Okay, so Thursday, it would be the 10th. Okay, September 10th at this particular point. So you can kind of plan ahead for that. Okay, questions, by all means, email me. You can find my email on the landing page, right? It's up here at the top, right here. Okay. And again, keep grinding this out. I know it's challenging. I know it can seem like a lot, but if you do this little bit every single day, spend a half hour each day, you're going to be able to be much more likely to be successful than if you just try to get everything crammed in for the week at the end of the week. That's not how it works. Okay. So keep trying hard, keep working at it. Don't be afraid to contact me, and we'll be in touch soon.